Hello, good day everyone. This is the second part to fractions, which deals with addition and subtraction. The assumptions for this lesson is that you have already known the types of fractions that exist. You know how to convert a mixed number fraction to an improper fraction or an improper fraction to a mixed number fraction. You understand how to substitute values for symbols. You know how to list the multiples of any number. You know what a convenient form of 1 means, and you know what numbers belong to the set of integers. The general form of a question for fraction addition or fraction subtraction looks something similar to this. Alright? This here. And the A and B, C and the D are all integers. They are not real numbers. A and C are called the numerators and B and D are called the denominators. The steps to follow when solving a question like this is to make sure that all the fractions are in a proper or an improper form. Next, you find the LCM of the denominators, in this case B and D. Then you take that LCM and you divide it by the B denominator and multiply that result by the A numerator and place the answer at the top of the LCM. You then place the operator for the question after the result of step 3. And then next you divide the LCM by the D denominator and use that result and multiply it by the C numerator and place the answer at the top of the LCM after the operator which you just placed in step 4. Next you solve the top and write the answer as a proper fraction or a mixed number fraction. But what is the LCM? The LCM is simply the lowest common multiple, and that is the lowest common multiple between two numbers. So say for example I have two denominators, 2 and 3. The multiples of 2 are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And similarly the first 5 multiples of 3 are 3, 6, 9, 12 and 15. In this case the lowest LCM here was the value of 6. So we would use that for an LCM in a case where you have 2 and 3 as the denominators of the fraction. Now you may not have only 5 numbers to list when you are trying to find the LCM. It may be more. Sometimes it is just quicker to simply multiply both the denominators and use the result as the LCM. The only side effect of this is that you would have to reduce the fraction in some cases later on. Say for example I use the numbers 2 and 4 as my denominators and I am listing my multiples going at 2, 4, 6 and then I use 4, 8 and 12. Notice that my LCM, if I inspect the list of multiples, is 4, but if I decide to multiply the 4 by the 2, what I get is the value of 8, and in this case I would have to reduce the fraction that I obtain as my answer. So let's look at a general solution for a fraction. The general solution for a fraction, once you find the LCM, you find the LCM BD by simply multiplying B and D of the denominators for both fractions. Now both fractions are already assumed to be in a proper or an improper form. So we take that LCM BD and we divide it by B. If you take the LCM BD and divide it by B, you would simply get a value of D. Now this D value is placed here and multiplied by the numerator of the B value. Next, what you do is you place the operator. So an addition or subtraction is placed here depending on what kind of operation you're performing. And then you divide the LCM by D. Now the LCM again was BD. You divide it by D. And this LCM now is, this result now is B. You take this B and you put it over here. You multiply it with the numerator of the denominator D. Notice that you get B by C. Now all you have to do at the final step is just simplify and write it as a proper or mixed number fraction. Since we do not know the values of A, D, B, C, we cannot simplify the top of the fraction. nor can we simplify the bottom because we do not know b or d. So let's look at a couple of examples for two proper fractions. In the first example, we have 1/2 plus 1/3, and simply following the steps, we make sure that the fraction is either a proper or an improper fraction. In both cases here, we have two proper fractions. Then you find the LCM of 2 and 3. Now I simply took 2 and multiplied by 3 to get my 6. I could also list my multiples, and I would see that 2, 4, 6 is the first three multiples of 2, 3, 6, and I'll see here that 6 is my lowest common multiple. Next, what I do is I divide that LCM by 2, so 6 divided by 2 will be equal to 3, and I take that 3 and I multiply it by the numerator of the 2. Next, I place the operator in between. In this case, I have an addition operator, so I place that addition operator into the question. And now the fifth step is that I take the LCM, which is 6, and I now divide it by 3. This result gives me 2. I take the result of 2 and I place it here, and I multiply it by the numerator of the 3, which is 1. Notice that 3 by 1 gives me 3, 2 by 1 gives me 2, 3 plus 2 gives me the result 5, and I end up with a value of 5 on 6 when I simplify and place it as a proper fraction. Now, if you look at a question that is similar to this first one, you would notice that the only difference between them is the operator of plus and minus. Each one of the values inside of the question is exactly the same. The only difference that you have between them is the plus and minus sign, as stated here before. Now let's look at two improper fractions. If I have two improper fractions, let's say 7 on 4 and 5 on 3, I can make sure that the fractions are all already proper and or improper. As you can see there, it's already improper. I find the LCM of 4 and 3. I simply multiply the 4 by 3 and to get my 12. Then I take my 12 and I divide it by my 4, and I got 3. I take this result of 3 and multiply it by the numerator of my. Then after that, I place the operator in between. My operator is a plus sign. After that, I take the LCM and divide it by 3. 12 divided by 3 is equal to 4. This result of 4 goes in here and is multiplied by the numerator of the 3. Notice 7 by 3 is 21, 4 by 5 is 20, and the result is 41. 41 divided by 12 is an improper fraction, and what I have to do in my final step is solve the top, which I already did, and simplify that top mixed number fraction or a proper fraction. 41 divided by 12 will give you 3 wholes and 5 on 12. Notice also in this question, if I place a minus sign in between, it is exactly the same procedures to follow, just that the minus sign is the difference. Now I'd look at two mixed number fractions. Say for example I have 2.5 plus 1 1/3. I can convert both of these here to improper fraction, and the improper fraction for 2.5 is 5 on 2. The improper fraction for 1 1/3 is simply 4 on 3. Now I have two improper fractions that I can work with. I can simply find the LCM. The LCM of 2 and 3 is 6. Next, what I do is I take that LCM of 6, divide it by 2, and then I take that value result, which is 3, and I multiply it by the numerator of the value 2. Next, what I do is I place the operator from the question into between here. Then I divide the LCM by 3. So my LCM is 6 divided by 3 will leave me with 2. And I take that 2 and I place it over here. And then I take the numerator of the second fraction and I multiply it by that 2. Notice 5 by 3 is 15 here, and 4 by 2 is 8. 15 and 8 will result in 23, and I just simply put the 6 on the underneath. I've already simplified, so now all that's left is to create a create a mixed number fraction from this improper fraction. 23 on 6 equates to 3 and 5 on 6. Notice again that if I replace the plus sign with a minus sign, I will perform a subtraction, and it's the same steps to follow. Now there are a couple shortcuts that you can do when adding and subtracting. And for one, you take the mixed number fractions, you could separate the whole numbers and the fractions, and then add both the results at the end. So say for example we have 2.5, and then we have 1 1/3. We can simply separate this by writing 2 plus 1, and then we add the fractions separately. Notice that the 2 plus 1 is 3, and the 1/2 plus the 1/3 will be equal to 1/6. 5 on 6. Notice that the answer here is 3 and 5/6. And this is the same answer you had in the previous question, 3 and 5/6. Now, if it is that we want to also, we can multiply each proper or improper fraction by a convenient form of 1. And we can solve it very easily. When you multiply by 1, you don't tend to convert. When you multiply by 1, all you do is you just change the form. You do not really change the value. So say for example I have 1/2 and 1/3. I can simply choose a form of 1 such as 3 over 3 to multiply this by, and I can choose a value of 2 over 2 to multiply this by. I can do this kind of working mentally. 1 by 3 is 3, 2 by 3 is 6, plus 1 by 2 is simply 2, and 3 by 2 is simply 6. Notice that 3 plus 2 is equal to 5, and I just have an LCM which is 6 being the same value. You would learn more about this kind of operation when we understand multiplication. So if you have any questions or comments, you can reach me at carb.tutor@gmail.com. Any kind of errors that you see that you want me to change, you can also send me a message there and I will fix it. And if you don't want to message me, you can always message your course teacher or ask the course teacher to be able to answer some of these questions. Thank you for watching.